Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for agreeing to interview today. Perhaps can we start off by just you introducing yourself, what your company does?
Sure. Hey, thanks, Samuel, for having me this morning. Great to
Yep.
see you in Switzerland,
Yeah.
and congrats on your
Yeah,
wedding. And so, yeah, we're an engineering and construction company. We're based in Northern Ontario, Canada, and we specialize in high-end residential construction. So, super complicated, unique structures, mostly architectural designed. We do some design ourselves, and then we have a group of about 150 to 200 employees, and we'll run 15 to 20 projects at a time, usually about 8 to 10 men per job site. A lot of island work
Okay.
and working in remote locations. So boating and snowmobiling and very difficult access. So it's a very unique niche kind of market. And as our business has grown, we've sort of outstripped our local talent pool as far as carpenters go, which is why we reached out to Journeyman 3 or 4 years ago now and started recruiting through Samuel to bring German carpenters to
Cool.
join us,
Awesome.
and
I
it's
mean,
worked out really,
that
really well.
sounds like quite the operation you got. It's Tamarack North, right? I think you didn't mention the name yet. Tamarack North. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Tamarack North. Yeah, in
Yeah.
unique area of Ontario called Muskoka.
And I actually had the honor of visiting you guys last year. I actually looked at my text messaging history with you, Chris. And I think on July 27th, we texted back and forth because I was visiting you in the Muskoka area. And I remember one thing we took your plane and we flew over different construction sites, which was awesome. I mean, the kind of houses you guys build, it's really unique for the area, I think.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And so, yeah, plane access just to speak to the remote kind of sites that we have for sure.
Yeah, cool. Um, can you perhaps do you have like a situation? So you said you started working with us 3 or 4 years ago. Can you remember the first couple of Germans that actually come over, or the first couple of journeyman carpenters that came over?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jacob
Yeah,
Nadolny was carpenter number one. That was I
yeah.
think it was in August of 2020, just at the start of kind of COVID. So vaccines were new to everybody, and Jacob was this young kind of 20-year-old young man, and we sort of took him under our wing and really helped him get settled
Oh
into the
wow,
community. He
that's
lived
very
at my
cool.
house for 2 weeks, the first 2 weeks. And then Felix Lameding was number one, and then Simon Rosenberger, and I could go on for I don't know how
Oh
many it's been,
wow.
probably 50 or 60 guys now. So, and we develop relationships with all of them, and we take them into our community, and they get involved in the local churches and community groups and the bars. Obviously, Germans like beer, which is great.
So I talked to one of the journeymen
And
a couple of weeks ago, and he told me they had this one instance where they took over a whole bar for the night, pretty much, and the locals came up to them and were like, "Hey, who are you guys, and why are you speaking German and wearing Tamarack North, hoodies and stuff like that?" So it seems to have left quite the impact in the community.
yeah, we've got some great stories, and I get contacted through the community quite a bit. What's going on here? What are you guys doing? So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Can, can you share one of those stories? What's kind of one of the, I would say, most memorable stories you've had with the journeyman guys so far?
Well, one a few months ago was kind of cool. So I got a call from Raphael Wink, and Rafi called me and said, "Chris, we've just had a little problem." I said, "Oh, what's that?" "Oh, we sunk our boat." I'm like, "You did what?" "Yeah, well, we bought a boat for $3,000, and Kyle was driving it, and he hit a rock, and it sunk." I'm like, "You did what?" And so, yeah, so I'm like, okay, so I'll be right there. And I was at an event with my girlfriend at the time. So I jumped into my boat and I'm like, well, where are you guys? "Oh, we're on an island somewhere." "Well, there's 30,000 islands in Georgian Bay. So it's like, can you narrow it down for me a little bit?" So and they told me the location. I'm like, I think I know where you are. And I went out, and I can share the picture, but yeah, the boat was sunk, and they were all standing there on the shoreline in their underwear, and all the stuff was just floating around them. Like, oh my goodness, get in the boat. So they loaded in my boat, and then we called the marine salvage company, and got the boat taken out of the water before
Yeah.
the Coast Guard showed up, and we got it sorted out. But
Yeah.
that was kind of fun. And
Yeah.
another fun one is Rafael, the same guy. He gets involved in our church group and starts traveling with the church group into the U.S. So they've had lots
Wow.
of trips. They go to Hawaii and Costa Rica and Washington and New York, and they're having lots of fun. Anyway, Rafi got down to see the Noah's Ark
Yeah.
down in, I think it's in Kentucky somewhere. So that was kind of cool as well to see them travel around
Yeah.
and kind of, they love to see the mountains. You know, they love to get to the Pacific coast and lots of road trips. Like they're buying vehicles and boats and motorcycles and ATVs and just having all kinds of fun.
Also, so great to hear that the candidates really seem to integrate into your local communities. I mean, I think that's always a kind of a worry that some of our partners have, that they'll just be kind of an apart group a little bit.
Yeah, well, if we have about 35 foreign workers at a time, so we have another 150 so of our own guys. So there's lots of good integration where they can hang out with our own local guys and get involved in different community events. So
Okay, awesome. No, but that's good to hear. Perhaps work-wise, what was your impression of them integrating kind of on the work side? How did the skills that they kind of brought along from Switzerland and Germany translate to the requirements on your work sites?
Well, I mean, the metric is interesting because obviously Europe works in metric and we work in imperial. So there's a bit of a transition there, but the guys are quite adaptable to it. And then language, when they first arrive, their English is usually kind of 7 out of 10, but it's that translation of different names of tools and safety techniques that needs to be worked on. So there's a kind of like a 3 or 4 week transition, but then you find out that their skills are very versatile from Germany to Canada, because in Germany, I always ask them, what's your favorite thing to do as a carpenter? And they say, we like building roofs. And I was like, okay, well, that makes sense because you have a lot of old stone buildings in Germany, and the roofs is the only thing that's wood that needs to be replaced. So obviously their roof work is very, very good. And so we cut a lot of hand cut roofs. And so they're very good at that. But and also, like in Canada, everyone is good at a certain thing. So you can have a trim carpenter, or you can have a rough framer, or you can have a tile installer, or a window and door installer. So they all have their strengths. And so you kind of need to learn what their strengths are and build a crew around that.
Okay, awesome. But would you say it's fair to say that after about a month or two, they're kind of up to speed more or less to kind of work along your crews at like full capacity?
Yeah, I would say they're probably 60 to 70% efficient for the first month, and then after the month they're fully and fully trained and entrenched into their crew, and that's when the relationships form between our guys and the new guys, and then they form a relationship where they go, okay, this guy's good at doing this, and so this guy's good at doing this, and so they put him on a crew doing that particular skill.
Okay. No, but that's really good to know, and I think that also might give potential other partners of ours an idea of what they can expect when kind of one of our journeymen actually joins their crews. I think you already briefly touched on it at the beginning of our conversation. What was your situation prior to working together with Journeyman? I mean, can you perhaps elaborate a little bit more on the reason why you thought about kind of partnering up with us at all?
Yeah, so we live in a small community. I mean, Canada only has a population of 30 million people. So, but in our particular area, like we serve about 100-kilometer radius from where our office is in Port Carling. And we only have 3 towns here. We have Perry Sound, which is about 6,000 people, Bracebridge, which is about 10,000, and Huntsville, which is about 20,000. And so when you have 200 carpenters, they're really hard to find. So if I sell more work, then I can't find any more people unless I go to Toronto or the bigger area. But Canada's a unique country where Canada's been built on immigration. So I'm an immigrant myself. I came from the United Kingdom in 1976. And so I learned as a young man that Canada, there's a lot of opportunity here. And so we said, well, yeah, I
Yeah.
immigrated to Canada 50 years ago. Why wouldn't I just bring people in from Europe as well? And the nice thing about the Germans is you have regions in Germany, like Bavaria, where you're doing wood framing and timber frame, and which is a very similar skill to Canada. So that's the reason why we started looking at Germany in particular, and then we found Journeyman through LinkedIn, and then Samuel, and we've tried to show Samuel and Journeyman what Canada is about and the opportunity, and thankfully Samuel's gone along with us so far, and
Well, yeah,
it's been a really
it's
good
thanks
working
to you guys
relationship.
that you went along with us. I mean, I'm sure you have to have had some initial concerns, right? I mean, a lot of people have some concerns at the beginning before they have their first German actually joining us. Did you have any kind of thoughts about potential problems that could pop up with our guys when they first come on, like before you actually started working with us?
Well, there's an old saying: you have
Yeah.
to kiss a lot of frogs before you find a prince. And
Okay.
so we started kissing frogs. And yeah, there's been a few tough instances with Journeyman,
Yeah.
but 95% of it's been really, really positive. You know, like these young men, that they miss their family,
Yeah.
they miss their friends, they miss their social life, they miss their girlfriends and all that kind of stuff, which are natural things to miss. But you know, if you can entrench yourself in the local community, then you'll get over that. And so we've you know, there's been a few instances that have been
Mhm.
you know, difficult to work through, but it's just like any other problem that arises on a construction site. You've got a problem. Okay, what's the solution, and how do we find it, and
Mhm.
how do we work together to get through this? And there have been a couple of journeyman carpenters that have decided that Canada wasn't for them, and they've returned home. But I would say that 95% of them really enjoy the experience. They want to learn how to build in Canada. They want to travel. They want to see the
Yeah.
world, and then they want to return home, which is okay.
And
Which is
that's,
okay.
I think that's normal. Some might leave earlier, but as you say, like 95% of them work out. Would you say that in those instances where there were problems coming up, and there's always going to be problems, I think, especially like with the first couple of people that you take on, would you say that me and my team, we've been okay to kind of work together with you to resolve those problems?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we feel that
Hmm.
Journeyman is part of our extension of our growth of the business, and a valued partner. So there's been no problems with communication. And you know, there has been one accident on one of the job sites. And it's like, okay, let's get hold of Journeyman. Let's get hold of this young man's parents. Let's explain the situation. Let's get him to the hospital. You know, does he want to return home? Like, what's the situation? Does he need therapy? Does he need counseling? And you know, there's been one guy that
Yeah.
returned home and another gentleman that stayed. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
like construction. And life is full of surprises, and you just need to deal with it one thing at a time.
And I think the story about the young gentleman that actually had the accident, I think he's still with you right now, right?
Yeah, he stayed. He lost partial vision in his eye when a splinter came off a table saw, but we got him to Toronto. He was operated on, and he wound up staying. And he had the option of returning home, and we were in touch with his parents, and he decided, no, I really want to stay and enjoy my experience. And so he has partial vision in one eye, but he's doing fine.
I mean, I actually talked to him on the phone as well, and he was like, "Look, I'm here. I want to pull through, and I want to keep on doing it." I think, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but I think that also summarizes a bit the spirit of the kind of tradespeople that we send over. Because if you're somebody that actually says, "Hey, I want to go abroad for a year or more to a foreign country," some of these guys, for them, it's the first time that they step on board a plane and fly across the pond to Canada. So I think, I mean, I don't know what your experience was, but I feel like the at least the attitude of these guys is usually quite proactive and positive.
Yeah, very much so. They're very you know, the thing that we like about the Germans is uh, you know, they show up on time, they work hard, they're honest, and they're clean cut, and they have a great work ethic. So Nothing but good things to say about the Journeyman program you have in Germany, where you have these young men that go through a trade for 4 years, and then your trade actually encourages them to go and travel. It's like this is the final phase of your journey as a journeyman. So it makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much, and I really, appreciate our partnership. I think it's been very successful so far. I mean, that's it from my side. Do you have any kind of so? What would you say to a potential partner who's currently thinking about working with us? Perhaps a couple of, two, three final sentences about your experience so far.
Well, I don't know how you market yourself in Germany, but it's working. So all I can say is that the destinations that you've chosen, whether it's Canada or Australia or all of these other countries, I watch your Instagram site and the social media presence. You can see that all the guys are enjoying themselves, right? This is like it's like the final chapter in their journey to become a proper tradesman, where before you get married or settle down, and to see the world and to see some other cultures, and maybe you figure out that you like the other culture better, but it's part of growth. It's part of being a person, um, and just having a full spectrum as far as your trade and how things are done in other countries as well. So I think it's rounding yourself out. Plus, you get the opportunity to learn English. Like I said, when they arrive, they've had some schooling. Their English is pretty good, but when they leave, their English is perfect. And that's a good skill to travel through life, where you have more trade experience, building in a different country, learning a new language, and growing as an individual.
And perhaps one last question from, I mean, you've had quite a couple of our guys, right? I think around 60, 70 people coming and going. Have any of them stayed so far? Like, has anyone, I think a couple of them have stayed for a second year, but I think a couple of them are actually looking at kind of long-term residencies, right?
Yeah, we've had 5 or 6 stay for second year, and then they go home. And I meet with them, every one of them, before they leave, and I said, you'll be back. It's okay. So, and right now we have a couple that we're working through Immigration Canada that want to get a Canadian passport and become a permanent resident. And then the interesting part is we have even some of the original guys like Felix Lammerding and Lucas Vilgratner. They're both here on summer holidays. They're coming back. Like they went to Germany and they're like, okay, I'm done as a carpenter now, but now I want to become, I want to receive my master's degree in carpentry. So they go back to finish their engineering or finish their next extension of their trade. And then I expect to see them all back here. So I expect to see 60 German guys on my doorstep anytime now, and we're going to welcome them with open arms.
I hope so too. I think that's a great kind of finishing touch to our conversation today, Chris. Thank you so much for taking the time today. And I wish you all the best, and I hope our partnership can really continue throughout the coming years.